The escape pod floated in the endless dark of space. Inside, a human soldier slowly opened his eyes. His head ached, his chest burned, and the taste of blood was sharp on his tongue. The last thing he remembered was fire tearing across his ship, alarms screaming, and his commander shouting for everyone to abandon vessel. Then silence. Nothing but silence. The pod's lights flickered weakly. Warning signals glowed red across the cracked screen. Oxygen levels were falling, power was almost gone, and the soldier knew he would not survive long. He pressed a shaking hand against the cold glass window, staring out at the stars. For a moment, he thought he saw Earth there, far away, but he knew it was only his mind playing tricks. He was alone, drifting in the void. Then came the sound, a low pulse of static, hissing through the broken radio. At first he thought it was another failing system, but then the static shifted, turning into voices. Strange voices, sharp and musical, speaking words he could not understand. Not human, not friendly. The soldier sat up, his body weak, but his mind alert. He tapped the screen, trying to adjust the frequency. The voices grew louder, stronger, like they were calling. A chill ran down his spine. Someone had found him, but not the people he wanted. The pod shook. Shadows fell across the glass. He looked up, and his heart froze. Outside the pod floated shapes, tall figures in armor that shimmered like silver fire. Their faces hidden, their bodies powerful, moving with grace no human could match. They were not rescuers, they were hunters. A beam of light cut into the pod, burning through the hatch. The soldier shielded his eyes as the metal tore open with a scream. The figures stepped inside, filling the small space with their size and presence. They were women, or at least they looked like women, but taller, stronger, sharper. Their eyes glowed with alien fire, their voices layered with strange tones. They spoke to each other quickly, pointing at him like he was an object, not a person. One reached forward, her hand gripping his collar, pulling him up like he weighed nothing. Her strength was terrifying. The soldier struggled, tried to resist, but his body was too weak. With a single motion, she ripped at his uniform, tearing the cloth as if it was paper. The others laughed, their voices cold and curious. They examined him like scientists studying a specimen. Fragile, one whispered in their tongue, her eyes narrowing, yet strong. Another replied, almost with wonder. Humiliation burned through him, anger rising with every second. He clenched his fists, even though he knew he could not fight them. He stared back into their alien eyes, refusing to look down. The leader noticed this, a tall warrior with a scar across her cheek. She tilted her head, studying his defiance. For a moment, she looked less like a conqueror and more like a judge. Then she smiled, a dangerous smile. The soldier's heart pounded. He did not know what they wanted, why they had taken him, or what fate awaited him on this strange planet below. But one thing was clear. This was not a rescue. This was not peace. This was the beginning of something far worse. The aliens dragged him from the pod, pulling him into their ship. The metal floor was cold against his bare skin, the air thick with a strange smell. Everywhere he looked, alien technology glowed with colors unknown to humans. Weapons lined the walls, alive with energy. Strange symbols pulsed across the screens, moving like living fire. He was in the hands of a species that had power beyond human imagination. Still, he did not bow his head. The aliens noticed, whispering to each other, testing his reactions. The leader leaned close, her breath cold against his ear. She spoke in broken human words, each syllable heavy with meaning. "You are ours now." The soldier met her gaze and stayed silent. He would not give them fear. He would not give them surrender. Deep inside, he felt something stir, a spark of defiance. If this was the end, he would face it standing tall. But if this was the beginning, then he would make them remember humanity. As the ship roared to life and the stars shifted outside the window, the soldier knew his life had changed forever. First contact had been made, and it had gone very, very wrong. First contact gone wrong. The alien ship cut through space like a blade, silent and powerful. Inside, the human soldier was dragged down a long corridor by the warrior girls. His feet scraped against the cold floor, his torn uniform hanging in pieces. The air was heavy, filled with a metallic taste that burned his throat. Strange, glowing veins of light ran along the walls, pulsing like the ship itself was alive. The aliens walked with purpose, their armor clinking with each step. They did not look at him with pity, only with curiosity and hunger. To them, he was not a man, not a soldier, but something fragile caught in their net. He felt their eyes burning into his skin, judging every movement. The leader walked ahead, her back straight, her presence unshakable. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, a city inside the ship. He froze at the sight. Dozens, maybe hundreds of alien warrior girls moved across platforms of shining metal. Tall towers stretched high into the air, covered with lights and banners that glowed like fire. It was a society built on strength, on order, on dominance. The moment they saw him, everything stopped. Alien eyes turned, voices whispered. Some laughed, their cruel smiles cutting deeper than blades. Others tilted their heads with interest, as if seeing something rare. The soldier clenched his fists, anger boiling in his chest. But he stayed silent. He would not give them weakness. The leader raised her hand, silencing the crowd. She spoke in her own tongue, her voice echoing across the chamber. Her words were sharp, commanding. He did not understand the language, but he understood the tone. She was claiming him, announcing him, like a prize brought from the stars. The aliens surrounded him, poking at his arms, his chest, his face. They laughed at his smaller frame, but their laughter was not without unease. They had seen his scars, his stubborn stare, his refusal to kneel. One of them pushed him hard, testing if he would fall. He staggered, but he did not drop. That single act made the whispers grow louder. The leader stepped closer, her scarred cheek catching the light. She studied him, her eyes cold but thoughtful. Then, to his shock, she spoke again in broken human words. Not slave, not toy, but test. Her voice was heavy with meaning. The chamber roared with alien voices, some cheering, some angry. The soldier's jaw tightened. He wanted to shout, to fight, but his body was weak. He could only stand and endure. His silence was not surrender. It was defiance. The aliens felt it, even if they did not understand. The leader raised her hand again, and two warriors dragged him forward. He was pulled toward a glowing circle carved into the center of the chamber. Symbols shifted and burned across its surface, alive with alien power. He realized what it was, a stage, a place of judgment. The crowd leaned forward, eager. This was not just about him. This was a test for them as well. The leader spoke once more, her words mixing alien sounds with fragments of human tongue. Human fight. The soldier's heart raced. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but his will. But the aliens did not care. To them, this was entertainment, an experiment, a way to measure him. The floor split open, and from below rose a beast unlike anything he had seen. Its body was covered in dark scales, its mouth lined with jagged teeth. It roared, shaking the chamber, the sound like thunder. The crowd cheered, voices echoing like a storm. The soldier took a step back, his pulse pounding. This was no trial, this was an execution. Still, he did not kneel. He raised his fists, broken and bare. Every breath in his chest screamed weakness, but his eyes burned with fire. The aliens expected him to die quickly, but he refused to give them that. If this was his end, he would make it an end worth remembering. The beast lunged, claws flashing in the alien light. The soldier rolled to the side, pain cutting through his ribs. The crowd gasped, their laughter turning to surprise. He scrambled to his feet, grabbing a shard of metal from the broken floor. It was small, sharp, almost nothing, but in his hands it became a weapon. He slashed at the beast, cutting across its eye. The monster roared in pain, blood spraying across the chamber. For a heartbeat, The crowd fell silent. The alien leader's eyes widened, not in fear, but in respect. The fragile human had drawn blood where none thought possible. The whispers grew louder, rising into shouts. The soldier stood tall, his chest heaving, his shard shaking in his hand. He was not just prey, he was human, and that meant something these aliens had forgotten. The leader stepped forward, her gaze locked on him. A smile touched her lips, slow and dangerous. In that moment, the soldier understood something. This was not a fight for survival. This was a beginning of something much greater. The beast roared again, and the crowd screamed with excitement. But the leader raised her hand, silencing them all. Her voice rang out, sharp and final. Enough! The word cut through the air like a blade. The soldier stood, bleeding and breathless, but unbroken. The aliens looked at him with new eyes. Not as prey, not as a slave, but as a problem. A problem that could change everything. Secrets revealed. The chamber was silent after the beast's blood hit the floor. The human soldier stood in the circle, chest heaving, his shard of metal dripping with dark alien blood. Every alien eye in the room burned into him, some with hate, some with awe, some with fear. The leader of the warrior girls raised her hand, and the noise of the crowd died. Her scarred face held no laughter now, only interest, deep and sharp. She stepped down from her high platform and moved closer. The crowd parted for her, bowing their heads as she passed. Her boots rang against the metal floor, echoing like a drumbeat. She stopped in front of the human, her eyes glowing with strange light. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, two different worlds meeting in silence. Then she spoke, her words broken but clear. Not weak, not prey, she said slowly, her voice carrying across the chamber. The crowd stirred, some shouting, others whispering. The soldier clenched his fist tighter around the shard. He did not answer. He would not give them his voice. But he did not look away. The leader tilted her head, studying him with something close to respect. Then she turned to her people and spoke in their alien tongue, her voice rising like fire. The crowd roared back, some in anger, some in excitement. The soldier could not understand the words, but he understood the feeling. This moment was not just about him. It was about all of them. Two guards stepped forward, dragging him from the circle. His body was weak, his arms heavy, but he did not resist. They pulled him through another corridor, away from the noise of the crowd. Here the ship was darker, quieter, filled with strange humming machines. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls, moving like shadows in water. They threw him into a small chamber, a prison with no bars, only walls of living metal. The door sealed shut with a hiss. For the first time since capture, he was alone, or so he thought. A soft voice broke the silence. Human, it whispered. The soldier turned quickly, his heart racing. From the shadows of the chamber, a smaller alien girl stepped forward. She was not armored like the others, her body slimmer, her eyes brighter. She looked younger, different. You are not the first, she said in broken words, her voice low so the walls would not hear. The soldier frowned, his throat dry. What? He whispered back. The girl nodded slowly, her silver hair catching the dim light. Long ago, your kind came here, she said. They fought us, they hurt us, they burned many, but they vanished. The soldier's chest tightened. Humans here? Centuries ago. He stepped closer, his mind racing. The girl's voice trembled, but her eyes held truth. Our records erased them. Our leaders buried their name. But some remember, some fear. She paused, her gaze locking onto his. There is a prophecy, human, she whispered. One will return. One will rise. One will bring fire to our world. The soldier's blood ran cold. Was that why they treated him with such curiosity, such danger? He was not just a prisoner. He was a symbol of something older, something forbidden. The prophecy hung in the air like a blade. The girl lowered her head, her voice almost shaking. Some of us hope you are that one, she said. Others hope you die. Before he could speak, the door hissed open. The leader entered, her presence filling the chamber like a storm. The younger alien stepped back quickly, hiding her face. The leader's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing to the girl. Instead, she turned her attention to the soldier. She walked around him slowly, like a predator circling prey. Her hand brushed across his shoulder, tracing the scars on his skin. "Many battles," she said in her broken tongue, her voice softer now, almost curious. He stayed silent, his jaw tight. Her eyes burned brighter, as if searching his soul. Then she leaned close, her breath cold against his ear. "You should not exist," she whispered. "Yet here you are." The soldier felt her words strike deep. They were not random. They were heavy with meaning. She knew, he realized. She knew the truth about the past, the prophecy, the hidden war between their species. But instead of killing him, she kept him alive. Why? The leader stepped back, her face unreadable. She turned to the younger alien girl and spoke sharply in their tongue. The girl bowed and left quickly, vanishing into the shadows. The leader stood at the door, her gaze still locked on the human. "Your test," she said firmly. "Tomorrow, we see what human truly is." The door sealed again, leaving him alone in the living prison. The soldier sat on the cold floor, his shard of metal still hidden in his hand. His heart beat hard, his mind burning with questions. Humans had been here before, erased from history. A prophecy named him as the one who would return. The aliens feared him, yet they also needed him. He closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "I'm not prey." In the silence of the chamber, the hum of the ship grew louder. Outside, the alien city glowed with fire and power. But deep inside, something had begun to change. Not just for him, but for them. The first secret had been revealed, and it was only the beginning. The arena. The next day came with thunder inside the alien ship. The soldier was dragged from his cell by armored hands, his arms chained with glowing cuffs. The halls shook with the sound of drums, heavy and deep, like the heartbeat of a giant. Every alien he passed turned to look at him, their eyes bright with hunger, with expectation. He was no longer just a prisoner. He was a spectacle. The guards pushed him into a wide gate, the air hot and heavy. The gate opened and light exploded in his eyes. He stepped into a massive arena, larger than any stadium on Earth. Stone and steel towers rose high, filled with thousands of alien warriors. Their cheers rolled like a storm, shaking the ground beneath his feet. The floor of the arena was rough, scorched from battles long before. Symbols carved into the stone glowed faintly, feeding the energy of the place. Above, banners of the alien tribe snapped in the wind, their colors sharp and fierce. The soldier stood small beneath it all, a lone human against an empire of strength. But his heart refused to bow. The leader of the warrior girls stood at the top of the arena, her scarred face lit by fire. She raised her arm, and the crowd silenced at once. Her voice rang out in alien tongue, words strong and sharp. The soldier could not understand, but he felt the weight of them. This was not just a fight, this was a judgment. The ground shook, a massive gate opening at the far end of the arena. From the shadows emerged a beast unlike any he had seen before. Its body was armored with black scales, its arms thick as tree trunks. For burning eyes glared at him, and its roar shook the air. The crowd screamed in joy, their voices rising like fire. The soldier's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but his will. The glowing cuffs fell away with a click, leaving his wrists free. The aliens wanted to see what he would do with nothing. To them, it was a cruel game. To him, it was survival. The beast charged, claws ripping through the ground. The soldier leapt aside, rolling across the dirt, pain burning in his ribs. The crowd laughed, jeering at his small frame. But he was not broken. He was calculating. Every move of the beast, every opening burned into his mind. He spotted weapons scattered across the arena floor, trophies of fallen warriors. A broken spear, a shattered blade, pieces of armor. The aliens had left them as a cruel joke, but to him, they were hope. He dashed for the spear, grabbing its splintered shaft. The beast roared and swung, the claw slicing the air inches from his head. He ducked, rolled, and drove the spear upward, striking under its arm. The spear broke, but the beast howled in pain, blood spraying black across the sand. The crowd gasped, the laughter dying. For the second time, the fragile human had drawn blood. The soldier's chest heaved, sweat burning his eyes. He knew he could not match the beast in strength. But humans were not built for strength alone. They were built for survival, for thinking, for adapting, and that was his weapon. The beast lunged again, and this time he did not run. He waited, standing still until the last second. Then he dove aside, grabbing a broken shield from the ground. The beast's claws smashed into the dirt, stuck for breath. The soldier slammed the shield edge into its wounded eye. The arena shook with the beast's scream. The crowd roared, not with laughter now, but with awe. The leader's eyes narrowed, her expression unreadable. The soldier stood tall, blood running down his arms, his weapon nothing but scraps, but his spirit unbroken. The beast staggered, but it was not finished. It turned, rage burning in its four eyes. The soldier's body trembled with exhaustion, but his mind was sharp. He saw the chains still hanging from the beast's neck, heavy and long. He ran forward, faster than the crowd expected. He grabbed the chain, wrapped it around the broken spear shaft. The beast swung, but he used its strength against it. He pulled, twisted, leapt onto its back, the chain biting deep into its flesh. The monster roared, thrashing, but he held tight. With a final pull, the beast crashed to the ground, choking, trapped in its own bonds. The arena fell silent. The human stood over the fallen beast, his chest heaving, his body broken but alive. He had done the impossible, not with brute power, but with cunning, with fire. The crowd erupted, their voices splitting the sky. Some cheered, some shouted in anger, but none looked at him as weak anymore. The leader raised her hand once more. Her scarred face held no cruelty now, only something darker, something deeper. Respect, yes, but also fear. She spoke a single word, her voice cutting through the storm. Human. The soldier dropped the broken spear and stood tall. Every muscle screamed, every breath burned, but his eyes were steady. He had survived their arena. He had beaten their monster. He was no longer just a prisoner. He was a challenge to their world. Growing tension. The arena was still alive with echoes when a soldier was dragged out. The beast's blood stained his arms, his chest burned with wounds, yet he walked tall. The aliens had seen him fight, had seen him win where no one expected. Now their eyes carried something new, not just curiosity, but respect mixed with fear. The guards led him back through the city inside the ship. This time the whispers were louder. Some aliens laughed cruelly, but their laughter was thin, forced. Others bowed their heads slightly as he passed, unsure why they did it. The human was still fragile in body, but his spirit had begun to weigh on them. He was thrown into a larger chamber, one not like a prison. This room was lined with weapons, banners, and burning torches. At the center stood the leader, tall and scarred, her eyes fixed on him like fire. Around her gathered other warriors, some younger, some older. Their faces were sharp, their voices rising in argument. He is dangerous. One hissed in alien tongue, her blade tapping against her armor. Kill him before he spreads weakness. Another shook her head, eyes narrowed. No, he is proof that the prophecy lives. We cannot kill what destiny sends. The soldier understood no words, but he understood the tone. It was division, cracks forming in their unity. And he was the reason. The leader silenced them with a single raised hand. Her gaze locked on him, studying him like a puzzle. You fight, she said in broken human words. You do not break, you do not kneel. Her voice was heavy, but not cruel. It carried a strange weight, something close to admiration. The soldier stayed silent, though every muscle screamed with pain. Silence was his weapon now, his defiance sharper than any blade. The aliens argued again, louder this time. One warrior slammed her spear against the floor. "He makes us look weak," she spat. "Kill him before he infects others with his fire." At those words, something shifted. Several younger aliens stepped forward, their eyes bright, their faces firm. One of them, the same girl who had spoken to him in the prison, stood near. Her voice trembled, but carried strength. "Perhaps weakness is not what we think," she said. "Perhaps this human shows another path." Gasps spread through the chamber. The leader's eyes narrowed, sharp and dangerous. But she did not strike the girl down, not yet. Instead, she turned back to the soldier. Her voice low, a whisper that still carried power. "You are changing us," she said. The soldier's heart pounded. He did not know if that was victory or doom. But he saw it in their eyes. Some hated him, some admired him. The arena had planted a seed, and seeds grow into things no one can control. That night, he was placed in a different cell. Not the dark chamber of before, but one with light and air. Food was given, strange fruits and meat. Not kindness, no, it was something else. He was being tested, measured, prepared for something larger. When the guards left, a shadow moved at the bars. The younger alien girl returned, her silver eyes bright in the dim light. "You shook them," she whispered. "Some want you dead. Some want you as a leader." The soldier frowned, his voice rough from silence. "I'm not their leader," he said. "You may not choose," she replied softly, "but they will choose for you." The soldier gripped the bars, his mind racing. He had come from a war already lost, his ship destroyed, his people far away. But here, among these warriors, something new was beginning. He was no longer just fighting for survival. He was becoming a symbol, and symbols are more dangerous than soldiers. The next day, the test continued. The leader herself stepped into the training circle, her spear gleaming. She motioned for him to fight. He was exhausted, wounded, yet he raised his fists. The duel began, sharp and fast, her strikes heavy as thunder. He could not match her strength, but he used speed, instinct, and cunning. Every block, every dodge, every counter made the watching crowd stir. This was no slave, no animal. This was a warrior. The leader struck him down at last, her spear pressing against his throat. But she did not finish him. Instead, she stepped back, her eyes burning with strange fire. She had tested him, and he had proven something she could not ignore. The crowd saw it too. The human was not prey, not toy, not even prisoner. He was becoming rival, and that truth was dangerous. The older warriors left with anger, their whispers sharp as blades. The younger ones left with fire in their eyes, whispering to each other of freedom, of change. The leader stood alone at the circle, staring at the human as he struggled to stand. She spoke one more time, her voice low, meant only for him. "You will tear us apart." The soldier said nothing, but deep inside, he knew she was right. Every step, every fight, every breath was building something larger than himself. The arena had not ended the war, it had started a new one. And the battlefield was not just blood and blades anymore. It was hearts, minds, and the future of a world. Escape or surrender. The human soldier woke to the sound of whispers. His chamber was quiet, the air cool, but shadows moved beyond the walls. When the door slid open, it was not guards who entered. It was the younger alien girls, their silver eyes bright, their steps cautious. They looked at him not as prey, but as something more. One of them, the same girl who had spoken before, stepped closer. Her voice trembled, but her words were firm. "You are changing them," she said. "Some see strength in you, others see danger, but all of them feel something new." The soldier leaned forward, his voice low. "What do you want from me?" The girl's answer came without hesitation. "Hope." The words struck him deeper than any chain. These were warriors raised to obey, raised to dominate. Yet here they were, whispering rebellion. They spoke of freedom, of breaking from endless battles, of something beyond the stars. And in their whispers, he heard fear too. for hope was as dangerous as any blade. That night, they smuggled him into hidden tunnels beneath the alien city. The walls pulsed with light, carved with old symbols. Here the air was heavy with age, the weight of forgotten things. The soldier touched the markings, his fingers tracing the shapes. They felt familiar, almost human. The girl explained in broken words. "Long ago, your kind stood here," she said. "They fought us, they bled, they vanished, but their fires stayed." The soldier's chest tightened. His people had been here before, erased from memory, but not from stone. The prophecy was not just a story, it was written into the very bones of this world. The rebels showed him more: caches of stolen weapons, hidden supplies, plans whispered in secret, dreams of a different rule. But every dream carried a risk. If the leader found them, death would be the only reward. The soldiers stood among them, feeling their eyes on him. They wanted him to lead, to stand as the symbol of change. But he was only one man, broken and far from his people. Could he carry such a weight? When he returned to the main chamber, the leader was waiting, her scarred face unreadable, her eyes sharp as ever. She circled him slowly, her voice soft but dangerous. "You walk in shadows," she said. "You stir hearts that should be silent." The soldier held her gaze, refusing to break. "I did not ask for this," he said. Her lips curved into a cold smile. "No," she whispered, "but destiny does not ask." She motioned for guards, but then raised her hand to stop them. Instead, she leaned closer, her words meant only for him. "You can escape," she said, her tone almost mocking. "Take a ship, run to your stars, vanish again like your kind before you." Her eyes narrowed, the fire inside them unshaken. "Or you can stay, fight, and burn with us." The soldier's chest burned with the weight of her words. Escape meant survival, a chance to return to the human fleet, if any still lived. But surrender meant becoming part of this world's future. Neither path was easy, both carried death. And yet, the thought of running did not sit in his bones. Something had taken root inside him, the whispers of prophecy, the fire in alien eyes. He was no longer just himself. He was something more. That night, he dreamed of fire. He saw earth burning. He saw alien warriors bowing. He saw himself standing in shadows too large for one man. He woke with sweat on his skin, his fists clenched tight. The younger alien girl was waiting at the bars again. Her eyes searched his face. "Escape?" she asked softly. He shook his head, his voice steady. "No." "Then fight?" she whispered. He did not answer, but his silence was enough. The choice had been made, not by words, but by the fire already burning inside him. Escape was no longer his path. Surrender was no longer his fate. He would stay, he would fight, not for himself alone, but for what this world could become. The leader watched from the shadows, unseen. Her eyes narrowed as she heard his words carried through the night. A whisper slipped from her lips. "So it begins." The climax. The drums of the alien city thundered like storms. The air was thick with fire and smoke as the people gathered in the grand arena once more. This time, it was not a trial, not entertainment. It was judgment. The prophecy had spread like flame, carried in whispers from chamber to chamber. The human was no longer just a prisoner. He was a question that demanded an answer. At the center of the arena he stood, bare, wounded, yet unbroken. His scars glowed in the firelight, his chest rising and falling with steady rhythm. Above him, banners of the warrior tribe snapped in the wind. Their symbols seemed to challenge him, daring him to break. But he did not bow. The leader of the warrior girls appeared at the far gate. Her armor gleamed like silver fire, her scar catching the light. She carried no weapon at first, only her presence. The crowd roared her name in alien tongue, their voices shaking the sky. Then she raised a massive spear, its blade burning with blue energy. Her voice rang out, sharp and final. "Human," she said, "today we see your truth." The soldier's heart pounded. He had no armor, no sword, nothing but the shards of his will. But in his mind, he carried more than himself. He carried Earth, his fallen ship, the whispers of rebellion, the fire of prophecy. And that was enough. The duel began with thunder. The leader charged, her spear striking like lightning. The soldier dove aside, rolling across the dust. The ground shook with her power, sparks flying as the spear cut deep into stone. The crowd screamed with joy, expecting him to fall. But he rose, his eyes sharp, his body moving with desperate speed. Every strike she made was heavy, meant to crush, to end. Every move he made was survival, quick, cunning, unexpected. He used the arena itself, the broken stones, the shadows, the dust. He was small where she was strong, fast where she was heavy, brains against brute force. It was not a fight of equals, but it was a fight of spirit. The spear sliced his arm, blood dripping. Pain roared through him, but he turned it into fuel. He grabbed a broken chain from the arena floor, swinging it wide. The leader blocked, sparks flying, but surprise flashed in her eyes. He was not fighting like prey. He was fighting like something she had never seen. The crowd grew louder, divided. Some roared for the leader. Others began to chant a new word, human. The sound cut through the air like fire through dry grass. The prophecy was no longer whispers, it was alive, and it terrified them. The leader struck again, this time faster, sharper, her face fierce. The soldier barely blocked with the chain, the impact throwing him to the ground. The spear pressed against his chest, its blade glowing. The crowd held its breath. This was the end, but then the soldier looked into her eyes. There was no fear in his gaze, only defiance, only fire. He whispered, his voice rough but steady. "You can kill me, but you cannot kill what I am." The words cut deeper than any blade. The leader froze, her spear trembling. For a heartbeat, silence ruled the arena. Then slowly, she pulled the weapon back. The crowd gasped, shouts rising in confusion, in rage and awe. The leader stepped back, her eyes locked on him. Her scarred face shifted, and for the first time, she bowed her head. The soldier stood, his chest bleeding, but his spirit brighter than ever. The arena erupted into chaos, some screaming for his death, others chanting his name. The city itself seemed to tremble under the weight of the moment. The younger alien girl appeared at the edge of the arena, her eyes wide with hope. She shouted words in their tongue, her voice shaking the silence. Others joined her, their chants growing. The prophecy was alive. The spark had become fire. The leader raised her spear high, her voice booming above the storm. "Perhaps," she said slowly, her words heavy, "humans are not prey." She turned her gaze to the crowd, her eyes sharp as blades. "Perhaps they are destiny." The soldier's breath caught, his fists clenched tight. He did not know what would follow, freedom, war, or something worse. But he knew one truth. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. Above the arena, the sky cracked with thunder. Ships moved in the clouds, shadows of greater powers watching from above. The prophecy was no longer hidden. The universe itself had begun to turn, and the human soldier stood at the center, alone, bleeding, unbroken, ready for what came next.